Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's Q&A with
Q and K. Tonight we are concluding our Buyer's Month with what it looks like. What?
I'll slowly fade out.
Slowly fade out. Hit the button. But tonight we're going to be talking about what it's like to sell and to buy in today's market, simultaneously. So if you have any questions, feel free to answer them or ask them here, or email us, info@thenationofrockwell.com, or I guess if you're on YouTube.
Yeah, if you catch us on replay, whether here on social media or on YouTube, which is social media, it's okay. Feel free to comment with any of your questions below.
Private messages.
Anything.
Email us.
Any way you want.
Okay, so like I said, we are talking about what it's like to sell and buy simultaneously in today's market. So, I guess let's just get it started. So, what do you think? What would be the first thing you would say?
The most important thing that you need to do if you are considering selling your home and you want to buy another home is first knowing that you can buy another home. Even if you, and what would that look like? So you need to speak to a lender, unless you've just got the cash laying aside somewhere, in which case, what are you doing watching us? But if you...
No, they need to watch us.
Actually, yeah. If you...
No.
Sorry. Then you need to call us right now.
So
if
we
you
can get
just
that
got
offer
the cash.
down. We can get that offer in that house
we'll get
tonight.
You taken care of. No, the first thing you need to do is talk to a lender, because you need to know, one, do I need to sell my house in order to buy another one? Or can I go ahead and buy one without selling and eventually sell? What do I need to do financially? Just because you're a homeowner, a current homeowner, doesn't automatically qualify you to buy another home, even if you sell your home.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. Know that you're going to be able to buy another place to live if you sell your home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't get caught on selling your home first and then realize, oh no, I can't get a mortgage.
Yeah.
So know that you can buy. Talk to a lender. If you don't have a lender to speak to, get with us. Get with, if you have a realtor already, but if you don't, get with us and we'll get you connected with who you need to be connected with. But yes, you have to talk to a lender first. Know that you can buy another home first.
And that kind of goes into, I guess, a point I'd like to make is knowing your timelines as far as, do you need to sell first before you can buy? It just all comes together. And then in knowing those timelines, there's a lot of things that that are involved with that. If you've purchased a house before, you probably are very much aware, especially in Texas with option periods and financing protection periods. Just all sorts of stuff, closing dates, extending whatever, blah, blah.
And if I can interrupt you real quick,
Sure.
You may have purchased a brand new home from a builder, so you may not know any of the things that Quentin's saying right now, like option to what is this stuff. So that would be another thing to, again, have a consult with a realtor and a lender to understand what the cost associated with
you got to know what the cost. You got to know how things the process and how it takes, how things go along.
Right.
So there's a lot of different things that go into that. I remember, like, when we bought our first house, this house we're living in right now, we bought it from the builder. And matter of fact, this was like this was the first street finished on, the first house finished on this side of our street, and there were like 4 on the other side, and that was it. So it's like we didn't have to go through all that much as far as like option periods and protection periods. We didn't have a lot of that stuff. We didn't. But now, it's like, I mean, being realtors, we know the process.
Yeah. So you're talking about process. What would you then recommend as far as this simultaneously? Like, what does that look like as far as process and timeline?
Well, and this is where things are going to kind of have to fluctuate. And I probably the words I use the most in this is when people ask questions like, well, it depends. It really does depend on things. So, all right, say for instance, you have to sell your house before you can purchase a house. I mean, then you're looking at, well, I would say get your house that you're in, that you got to sell, get it ready to market. Because most agents, we do both as well, is if you have your house on the market and you find the perfect house that you want to move in, that's the one, you can put an offer on that house, but you have to have a buyer contingency. So and that basically states that, tells the other people that, hey, I have a house I have to sell in order to buy your house. I want to buy your house, but I got to sell this house first. And so...
And that also protects you in the case that your home doesn't sell. You are able to back out of the deal and get your earnest money returned to you. So,
yeah, and then it also kind of helps the people you're buying the house from, if they have another person that comes in with an offer that they want to entertain, they're going to come to you and say either put up more earnest money or get out.
Bye.
You know, either and then like there's other different legalities with that, but that's in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Right.
So I mean, there's other little things involved, but.
So you're saying that the selling timeline is the most important in all of this?
Yes, because now I guess get back to that. Sorry with my little rabbit trail, but with like we normally we'll advise our people to. It's like, okay, we'll accept. It's okay to accept a contingency, but I would say, let's make sure they have another contract on the house that they're selling, because then that means they're really locked in. They've got somebody they're really working with to get their house sold. Therefore, it's not going to be sitting there for months, where our listing is going to be held up for months because of this thing. So, or however long it is.
So Leo asked real quick, does that type of contingency hurt the seller typically, or are more buyers understanding of the situation? Okay, so in my opinion, sellers don't like buyers to have a contingency. Typically because it gives them an out, and then all this time was just wasted. Yeah,
because then that in the MLS and all the Zillows of the world, the house is saying that there's like either option pending or pending, so people aren't really looking too much.
Right. So however, sometimes and when you start getting into specific price points, it's more typical, especially I would say right now in the Houston market, in the $250 to probably $450 range, when you're looking at more of these like, hey, it's our next house, it's our next step
not
up.
Not your first house.
It's not a first-time buyer. It's more understandable that a buyer would have this contingency. Now, most sellers aren't going to accept it until you actually have a contract on your home. They want to see that contract on your home to make it more guaranteed. So I will say, though, if you have a contingency to sell your home and you're up against someone who's offering the same amount of money and they don't have a contingency,
they're going with that one.
They're going to pick that person.
And it kind of goes with the same thing. And this is what we've said on here probably a bunch. The easier purchase, the easier sale is the one the person's going to go with. I mean, you just kind of have to look at it, wouldn't you? To either do this one sale and then, or sell your house to this person, you got a whole bunch of hoops to jump through, or sell it to this person. And
it's really what it looks on paper, because no one can tell the future. The person without the contingency,
they may flake out.
Yeah.
And we've had clients that have scored on because somebody flaked out. It was a house that they wanted, but the buyer, there was already a buyer, it was already impending. But so we contacted that agent, and he had a suspicion that person was backing out. They backed out. Our people got the house.
Right. I mean, it is what it is, but unfortunately, because you can't tell the future, the one without the contingency, it just seems
Just seems
less risky to a seller.
Seems.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
great.
big thing.
It is great for a buyer because, yes, if your home doesn't sell, it's definitely worth putting that in because, again, it protects you. It gets your earnest money back in the case that your home doesn't sell.
Yeah. So it's tricky. Real estate
Really,
chess,
it's
Leo,
exactly
correct.
it.
Real estate
and there's
chess.
some situations where it's just not like we're waiting on your home to sell. It's like, well, and then the buyers of your home, or they're waiting on theirs to sell, or these people and they're waiting to sell, and it's a lot. It can be, several tiers of moving parts to all make this happen.
I can't remember. This was a while ago. I was talking with an agent who the house, I guess the people that were buying their house had a contingency on their house, and something happened with their people that fell through, and then but the house that their people were buying, they had a contingency on that house. The people that were selling that house had a contingency on theirs.
Right.
So you had all these things, and then because this one person fell through, some other things kind of had to be maneuvered and pushed around. And they wound up getting it because it wasn't just that person. I think that person and that other person. It was just kind of
Yeah.
It can get
That's it.
Knight to pawn something.
So
whatever,
So I don't know anything about chess. I've literally played it one time in my entire life, and I have no idea.
I played it like I played poker, where I had the rule. Okay.
The rule book.
Yeah. Okay, that go. Okay.
And give me some Uno. School you all day long.
Uno BS. That's right.
So basically, back to our subject. Really, everything is hinging on the sale of your home. Is if you are needing to sell your home in order to buy one.
Yeah.
Now,
if not, you don't have that restriction. You don't have that type of thing.
Your lender may let you, say, no, y'all can afford, if y'all have to do this, have a second payment, you can do it.
And there are people, we've had clients that have had that, and it's okay. And then they're a little bit more freed up. Obviously they wanted to get rid of their house they were moving away from.
So that's the risk of that situation is if you go and buy a second home, having a double mortgage, having your home potentially being on the market for longer than you expected. So those are things that you want to consider and discuss. But so
I guess all of that to say, I guess the last point would be
that you need to be prepared to be flexible.
Very flexible.
That's not really being flexible. Okay, so be flexible. Be willing to be flexible. Be willing, be prepared for dates to get pushed back, for things to get a little, I don't know if this is even going to work. Be ready for a few heart palpitations, but don't let it freak you out. Okay, that's one thing that we're used to as realtors. Like, we know things are going to come up.
Every. I was talking to a new agent earlier today, and they were just kind of going through some tough times and dealing with stuff. Every deal, there is some moment of.
Yeah.
Always. There always is. So, it's our job to deal with those and help you deal with those, and try to ease that moment. But there's always going to be something. And in this type of situation, you're dealing with the sale of a house, which is stressful, and then the purchase of a house, which is stressful, all at the same time. And
then the stress of just trying to time things. So,
And so that the stress of trying to time things, you may not be able to, have the close of the house that you're selling and the close of the house you're buying on the same day.
More than likely not.
It can happen. We've got one coming up. It can happen. It's just not necessarily. It's not the norm so much now. It used to be a little bit a while ago, just because some lending requirements have changed.
Right.
But
so in the instance where they're not on the same day, what would happen is, especially again, if your purchase is contingent upon the sale of your home, your sale is going to happen one day, a few days, maybe a week before you're closing on the home that you're buying.
Lease back.
I was going to say, so what do you do until then?
Lease back. You're going to have to lease that house.
You're going to have to lease your home.
In some people, that's kind of a tough concept to get over, especially if it's a house they've paid off or whatever, their house that they've paid the same mortgage for however many years.
Right.
But you're going to do a lease back, and typically that's going to be a daily rate of the average what an average daily rate would be in that particular neighborhood.
Right.
So
and that just all gets factored into your closing costs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're going to have to sign a small lease, but a lease nonetheless.
Yeah.
So
and if it is a significantly larger amount, obviously, I think the other alternative would be temporary housing.
Yeah.
So let's say, for instance, you sold your house and then your new home is a new construction and it's still going to be a whole nother month. Well, then, you can look into temporary housing. You could go live with family. But you could perhaps find a furnished rental. There's lots of alternatives out there for you. So that is something to consider. What if our buyers of the home we're selling, what if they don't let us lease it back? That's all negotiable up front, however. But what if it's a situation? What if it's between, okay, we want this sold, and we're going to have to figure out where to live for 2 days, or not getting this sold? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, finding somewhere to live for 2 days is worth getting your home sold. That's what I feel like. So, but be ready. Be ready for things to happen, because
something always happens somewhere in the process. There's always something. So just be ready to just kind of roll with the punches. There may be bridges that you got to cross you didn't want to cross or didn't think you would have to cross. You're going to have to just be flexible, especially when you're dealing. I mean, if you bought a house, it's stressful. Now be on the sell side and then simultaneous.
Right.
It can be stressful. Be flexible. That's the biggest key. I think it's almost probably the key to life.
Just get some Scotch tape and just do that.
Awesome. Godfather.
So, everyone, thank you all so much for joining us. And we love your comments. If you have any questions at all throughout the week, feel free to message us. Or, again, if you're watching this on replay, feel free to comment below.
We'll know.